hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Voices in My Head with Basil Sands. And this is episode 31, and we are talking with the one and only, the highly super organized and very congenially friendly person who likes to share information with everybody else, Karen Commins. This is also a different kind of special new day too, on top of Karen Commins. Well, not physically on top of Karen Commins, that would be rude. But we are also putting this podcast out on January 1st, 2017, which happens in just about, 10-15 minutes from the time of recording this. There's fireworks going off outside. Hopefully someone will let something off over the studio and we'll say, ooh, and pretend that we're surprised. Well, I would be surprised, since we're inside the garage, inside the studio, inside Basil's house, in a super secret tunnel under the building. Oh, I guess, yeah, if you put it that way, that would be kind of surprising for fireworks to go off right outside. Then again, we live with Gerald. Oh, that's true. And Buffin. Oh, yeah, Buffin. Okay, never mind. Well, here we go on with the show with Karen Commins. Thank you, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to introduce to you the wonderful, the amazing Miss Karen Commins, all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Basil. Thanks so much. It's so great to see you and talk with you again.
Likewise. We saw each other back at APAC. Or was that the show? Were you at APAC?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Doesn't that seem like that was about 2 years ago?
You know what? It seems like it's just, they all run together for me, because I did several conferences 2 years ago, and then did several different conferences, except for APAC was one that I repeated this year. And it's like, wow, okay, where did I see this person? Oh yeah, that's this person. So, but yeah, I'm going to read your quick bio here. Let people know who you are for those who may not be among the initiated.
Okay.
Karen Commins is a professional voice talent since 1999. Atlanta native. Okay, take two. I got to do this.
Take two is always better than take one, I think.
You know what? I got to, what was that Moss said? Time for the bigger glasses. There we go. A professional voiceover talent since 1999, Atlanta native Karen Commins now works almost exclusively in audiobook. She has narrated 50 titles and specializes in performing cozy mysteries, sweet romances. She particularly shines at comedic reads and gives an authentic voice to books set in the South and or starring Southern characters. In addition to earning a BA in broadcast journalism and an MS in computer information systems, Karen has completed extensive specialized training in voiceover and audiobook narration technique, as well as digital audio production. When she isn't narrating, she writes articles about books for her blog and other sites, curates and maintains information for authors seeking to create audiobooks, and offers helpful advice to narrators in several Facebook groups. And that last bit was what prompted this interview, because usually I require narrators to have 70 or more titles published in order to get in here. But unless you have something special in addition to your base of work. And in this,
thanks for making me special.
You are. Anyone who's active in Facebook, in the audiobook groups, audiobook crowd, professional audiobook narrators, or ACX narrators, knows probably who Karen is. And if you don't know, you need to find out, because you are like one of the most helpful sources of information I have ever met among humans. You're like the Google of audiobooks, all inside your little body there. It's so cool.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're the advice and the not tabulation. What's the word I'm looking for? The collection of data that you keep at your fingertips has been some of the most helpful stuff for so many people, and it's been great. Now, that said, you did not start out in audiobooks at all. You started out in a very different field. Explain how you made the jump from IT. You were a programmer, correct?
I started as a programmer, but actually I came to voiceover from information technology. But voiceover was always what I wanted to do. I knew when I was a child I wanted to do voiceover. I wanted to be a cartoon voice or be a talk show host for a while I thought about being a play-by-play announcer for baseball, but it's still a male-dominated sport. I don't think there's still a female play-by-play announcer in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen.
So that's why I went to journalism. I have a BA in journalism because that was the only path I saw to get into voiceover, because people were on TV or they were on the radio, and that's how they got in voiceover. But at the tender age of 16, I started to work for our nation's government, our favorite governmental agency, in fact. And I worked through there at the IRS, through high school and college. And like many people, once I finished college, I worked at a radio station for a short time, but I put the dream on a shelf to take a job that paid me more money. And I was still working at the IRS, and that job that paid me more money was a programmer's job. And so I spent 27 years working in different information technology positions, from programmer to LAN administrator to email administrator. Such joyous times. But, that voiceover thing was always there. And so in 1992, I started recording for the Georgia Radio Reading Service. And I thought that would do it, that I just, just be a fun thing to do on the side. No, the more I did, the more I had to do. And so in 1996, I was listening to audiobooks even back then, and I found the email address for Frank Muller, who sadly is no longer with us, but he's one of the industry titans of all time. And I just sent him a few questions, because that was very intriguing. How did he get his books, and where did he record them? Just a few questions. And he was so kind and gracious and answered my questions. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And I took voiceover workshops and did a demo. And I finally started being a voiceover talent in 1999, still working that day job. And in fact, I worked that day job for 12 full years while doing voiceover on the side. And I did some audiobooks early in this millennium. But at that point, publishers were very afraid of anyone who had a home studio. I've had a home studio since 2001. But, I wasn't somebody they knew, and they're like, we have all the talent we need here in New York and LA. And I said, I'm in Atlanta. Delta is here. Delta's ready when you are. I can be there. And it was only in 2011 when ACX came along and opened the doors that allowed the rest of us who aren't in New York or LA to actually have a seat at the table in audiobook world. And now, of course, home studio is the thing. It's like, if you don't have a home studio, you're getting left behind. Right.
Yeah, that's very much the case. And how would you feel that the transition, I mean, you had the idea of being an audiobook narrator or voiceover artist in your heart for a long time. Do you see a correlation between the career field that you had and what you do now?
Oh, sure. In fact, the reason they hired me as a programmer was because they wanted my communication skills. They knew I could learn the technical aspect. I'm very logical and analytical. But they hired me because of my communication skills. And it's funny that now I'm actually doing the communications job, but there is so much of it that relies on that knowledge in IT. And there's nothing about a computer that scares me. And I've troubleshot my own, and I know how to Google and get answers for things. And I think a lot of our job is the technical side now. And like I just said, if you don't have a home studio, you're getting left behind. And home studio does mean you need to have at least a minimum technical proficiency. And a lot of people are still kind of, I don't really want to do that. So absolutely, it has helped me every single day. And, and I continue to learn things about it. It's just like continuing to take classes in narration. I continue to learn things on the computer that are going to move me forward.
That kind of brings us to the next question of, you seem to be a very organized person. And,
I am.
And I think that's something that's also a necessity for coders, for programmers, for people in IT. I mean, you walk into a lot of IT offices like mine, and there's stuff scattered all over the place. but I can usually put my hands on whatever I need pretty quick. And but you're like several steps above that in your ability to collate material and put it together and retrieve it quickly. What drives you to collect and share all the information that you? I mean, it seems like every time someone asks a question about something, you're able to pull up, oh, in 2013, Jeffrey Kafer said this on this Facebook post. And it's only been like 2 minutes. How'd you find that? What drives you?
Well, sometimes people tag me and bring me in to see if I can answer it. So, well, I've always had a good memory, and I've always been super organized, and I've always been a copious note taker. And when I was in IT and when I solved a problem if the server crashed, I wrote down exactly what the symptoms were and what I did to solve it. So I've always been this way. And even in IT, people would come to me as the expert, and I would say, what have you done? Give me your troubleshooting steps. And then I could tell them, well, have you tried this? Have you done that? So I've always been that way. But in my heart, I really want to help people. So that's part of, you asked what drives me, that's part of it. Part of it is I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I see so many people, and it's something that somebody's struggling over. If I've already been there, seen it, done it, got the t-shirt, here, why not hand it to you? But there's also, this will sound very nefarious, but I have a business purpose for everything I do online.
Right.
And being known as the Queen of Links is kind of something I've intentionally set for myself, because I read an article, and this is not why, but it's kind of happened this way. But I read an article, it was Seth Godin had done an interview with Krista Tippett. And he made the point that everything you do is being noticed. And if it's being noticed, it's marketing.
That's a good point.
And so when I'm able to help somebody else, yes, it does my heart good to help somebody else. I mean, really, that's where it comes from, is that spirit of helpfulness and givingness. But I also know that there are people who see that, and it gets me name recognition. When I contact people, it's already a warm contact. It's not a cold contact of, who are you? I've never heard of you. It's like, oh, yes, I've seen your post on social media, and thanks for contacting me. So I think it's all of those things bundled together that causes me to share the info that I do.
Excellent. That's good. And the marketing bit, that's something that a lot of folks, especially new narrators I've seen, and sometimes folks that have been around a little bit, don't always seem to realize that their Facebook presence and the things that they say there can positively or negatively impact their career. I mean, like you said, if you're seen, that's marketing. But if you're seen being a real butthead, that's not good marketing. But people notice it.
They do notice it. And the thing is, you don't know who is noticing what you're doing.
Right.
So that's one part of it. But the other part, going back to the core helpfulness part, you don't know the impact you're having on somebody's life.
Right.
So it takes the same amount of time to be nice or to be mean to somebody. Why not be nice?
Exactly.
Why not try to help them along the way? And I think that what you put out in the world comes back to you in a way and time and place that you probably didn't expect. And so I have always felt this. I've had an advice page on my website since 2001 that people wanted to know, how did you get into voiceover? And so it's kind of grown from there in terms of being an information assimilator. Because I've always thought that if I help somebody today, somebody's going to be there tomorrow to help me when I need it.
Right. Yeah, what comes around goes round. Or what goes
of course,
around
now
comes
they're
around.
being mean when what comes around goes around, and I just want to be there to see it. Only if they're being mean.
That's right. Now, you've done some voiceover and you've done audiobook narration, you've done e-learning stuff. What, if anything, do you see as the differences between each of those different parts of the voice acting world?
They all have their own method of performance. I mean, there's a certain expectation in voiceover or e-learning, commercial voiceover or documentary narration or e-learning versus audiobooks. I mean, they all require acting. They all require the ability to get the salient points across.
Mm-hmm.
But in commercial voiceover, for instance, you're interrupting somebody. You've got to get their attention. So you've got to hit certain words to really get their attention. In audiobooks, you're their escape. So you're telling the story and they're spending a lot more time with you. You don't have to be in any kind of hurry. You don't have to hit a 30-second mark or a 60-second mark. You're telling the story and they're with you for the ride. So, they all at the core start with a person performing words that are on a page, but they have totally different performance styles. And I did do voiceover, but I just to me, it was kind of the rat race, for lack of a better word. And I just got tired of that. I just want to be nose down in a good book and telling great stories.
Right. It's almost like being a time traveler or just some kind of international person of mystery where you get to be in all these places for hours on end. It's a great escape for me, I know. I just love doing it. Now, one thing that I noticed on your website, one of the things that you mentioned was in the past you've played a lot of different musical instruments. Now, I'm a semi-talented non-musical instrument musician, or basically I can play some kinds of drums and that's about it. But I love music.
That's a musical instrument.
Oh yeah, it is. I love. A couple of episodes ago, I played the ballroom in the credits, or actually one of the lEPRECHAUNS did. But the
you got to watch out for those leprechauns.
Oh yeah. That's it. They can be a little bit feisty. Now you've played clarinet, flute, piccolo, oboe, string bass, guitar, piano, and harp.
Not all at the same time, I will mention.
That's a lot of musicality there. A person can play a couple. I could see a flute and a piccolo. Okay, they're pretty similar. A clarinet and an oboe, kind of. But you've got entirely different classes of music going on in your mind. And do you think, this does have something to do with audiobooks, do you think that having that musicality kind of inbuilt or built in inside of you, does that inform your audiobook narration or your acting, voice acting in general, or do you think it has an impact on the way that you do things?
Absolutely, because language is music and the voice is an instrument. And whether you're looking at music or you're looking at words on a page, there are only 12 notes in music. There are 26 letters that make words, but how the author or the composer puts those things together on the page is where the beauty comes in. But it's still just a flat thing on the page until the voice brings it to life. And there's musicality in our speech. And two audiobook narrators could look at the exact same page. This is why coaching is so wonderful, because you can look at the exact same words on the page, but where your interpretation of those words is going to be totally different. And that's where the music is as well. And of course, being a former wind player, one thing that I always had to worry about when I played oboe or flute was that you have to figure out where to breathe.
Yeah.
That's often an issue with narration too, when you're using your voice as your instrument. So all of that builds in, and music and language both follow a certain logic and a structure. So when you have the same foundation, and then you're layering on top of it, there's an interpretation of that, then it definitely informs it. And I mean, you don't even think about it, but I mean,
right.
Do you speak softly? Do you speak louder? You know, there's the dynamic range of the voice. There's the different pitches you could be at. There's so many things you could do with your vocal instrument. So absolutely, I would say music is a wonderful tool to have in your arsenal, because you'll start listening for conversations around you of how real people speak, because then that will come out in your narration as well.
Right. Making it real. Well, very, very interesting. Now, you give advice, you give answers to folks. What do you think is the most important thing for a new audiobook narrator just getting into this job, or even before they get into the job? The person who writes to you and says, I love listening to audiobooks, I really want to be one. What first piece of advice would you give a person?
Well, that's a hard question, but I tend to tell people always that, people seem to come at it from I have a nice voice and I should do something with it. Well, we all have nice voices. So one thing to know is it's not a get rich quick by any stretch of the imagination. It's not a get rich quick career. So if you're in your job and you're desperate and you hate it, well, this is not saying don't pursue it. You can do what I did. You can start pursuing it in your part-time and your spare hours until such a time where you can make a leap from one to the other. I would never tell somebody, quit your job and do this. I mean, I want security in my life. I want that for other people too. So that's one thing, is don't quit your day job, and don't think that this is a get rich quick career.
Right.
And they need to we're talking about breathing a minute ago, take a deep breath and relax, because you need to be relaxed when you're telling the story. But there are sequence of steps to do. Read the whole book, figure out who your characters are, or if it's nonfiction, figure out the author's point of view and how you want to present it. And these are things you may not be able to do on your own. I really think people need to work with a coach and get equipment set up, because the other important point is this is not a job where you're going to have on-the-job training. Right. I think a lot of people come to it and think, even people crossing from voiceover into audiobooks, well, I'm very successful in voiceover, so of course I can do this. Of course, maybe you can. Maybe you will find out you won't like it. We all refer to Sean Pratt's video of go sit in the closet for 2 hours and read a book and see how much you like it. And a lot of voiceover people find out they actually hate it because they're sitting too long. There's not enough variety in the reads for them. So you may find you don't even have the temperament for it. But you want to, I suddenly lost my train of thought, that's what happens sometimes when you get going down one way.
Test the waters.
We can circle back. I think I made the point. I was just going to reiterate it.
Okay. Testing the waters is where you were going. Make sure that it's something that you can actually do.
Right. Oh, and there's no on-the-job training. So when a client, thank you, Basil, that's exactly where I wanted to go. Because when a client hires you to do their book, they're expecting that you already know how to do it.
Right.
Not that you're going to be figuring it out on their book.
Right. It's a couple $1,000. You don't want to throw it away on someone who's not experienced and or doesn't actually know what they're doing and produces some shoddy work. So, yeah, you definitely got to know what you're doing before you jump in.
And when I used myself as an example, I said earlier I had done some audiobooks at the beginning of the millennium, and I had a bad experience. I had a publisher who actually lost the audio rights when I was a week away from turning it in. And I was editing it myself, and it was just horrible. So, and it was a small publisher, and I wasn't getting paid much, and I was just doing it for experience. So several years went by before I decided to get back into audiobooks. And when I did some volunteer work on LibriVox. And I did mention earlier, I volunteered for the Georgia Radio Reading Service. I did that for 5 years before I ever even took my first voiceover class. But even after I'd established myself as a voiceover talent, I volunteered on LibriVox so that I could learn some processes. Like, I wanted to learn how to do punch and roll before I tried to get back into audiobook narration. So I think it's important to do these kind of training exercises on your own where nobody's looking and nobody's caring about the outcome, so that you can learn, so that when you do get that contract, you are prepared and ready to go.
Right. That's utmost importance, folks. Be prepared. I'm a Boy Scout leader, so
yeah, I see that in your background.
So we said that, and we said that. I got to look over my. Okay, so that's the advice you would give as a person to a person before they actually start. Be prepared. Yes. Know your stuff. What would you advise a new narrator to do as they actually start a title? What steps do you recommend a person take to prepare and as they start digging into their first actual job?
Again, take a deep breath and relax. It's going to be okay. I remember the first contract that I got once I started narration again, and I had a bit of a panic attack because, like, suddenly, oh no, what have I promised? So take a deep breath and relax kind of plays into my day a lot. But as you start a new title, the first and most important thing is you have to read the whole book. I don't care if it's fiction or nonfiction, you need to read the whole book. And as you're reading, take notes. I use Evernote. Evernote is becoming like Google to me in that it's my full-time companion. And so when I'm reading a book for narration, I have Evernote open. And if it's a fiction book, I have a notebook for each book. And then for fiction, I have a new note for each character. And as the character says something about themselves or somebody else says something about them, I copy and paste it into Evernote. And the reason I do this is that I'm creating a profile on each character. So when I have finished reading that book, I know who all's there. I know when they're speaking. I know what the relationships between them are. And you don't just do a voice. I think new narrators often think, oh, well, I can just do a voice. You want the voice to fit the character. You want it to grow organically from what the author has given you there. Right. So that when you're speaking their words, it actually sounds like a real person. Right. And so I cast them. I'll cast people in my mind. Now, they might be movie stars. They might be my in-laws. I mean, it could be somebody I know. But I want to have some kind of, if I were casting people in the movie, who would be playing these characters? Because that helps me when I'm actually in the booth recording their lines. Kind of, channeling those people. Right. Do you mark the text itself? I used to. It used to look like a Christmas tree, as they say, with multicolors going down. Now I'm marking it much less. If I'm not marking it much except for different conversations, I might put aside it if there are multiple people in the same conversation, either highlight their names going down or put in the margin who they are. I mark it sometimes if there's a place where I know I need to take a breath, or the words that, because you're reading down ahead of where you're actually speaking aloud. So if the author said something like, he said with great trepidation, I'll underline that, what that attribution is, so that before I get there, I can actually say the line with great trepidation. We all have different ways of marking our text, I think, and that's part of growing in the process and figuring out what works best for you.
Very good. Very good. So now we come to the point of the interview where my roommates come out and ask you some questions. And
this is the part that scares me.
Well, they don't typically bite.
Friendly. They're very friendly. They're always very nice to your guests, but I just never quite know where they're going to go.
Well, neither do I, to be honest with you. So here we go. Boys, you want to come up and do this now?
Oh, yes, Mr. Basil. We're ready to go. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Well, I'm fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. I'm Bertold, by the way. I'm the youngest of the brothers.
Yeah, because you're the youngest. I thought that was you.
Yeah, that's me. And my brothers, Neely, Feely, and Buffin are going to come up here. Oh, here they are. Hello, boys. Hello, Miss Karen Commins. Nice to see you again. This is Feely, the older of the brothers. And my brother Neely over here, he's got something stuck in his mouth. He was eating a peanut butter sandwich, so he won't say much. Okay. And Buffin, say hello. Hello. And, Gerald wants to come in and ask some questions, too. Gerald, say hello.
Hello. How are you, Miss Commins?
I'm very pleased to meet you.
Wonderful, wonderful. How is the weather down there in Atlanta?
We actually are having our first day of fall here in mid-November. It's in the mid-60s. It had been in the 70s and even 80s. And today we're happy because, well, there are terrible wildfires in North Georgia, and that does not make me happy. And I feel very badly for the firefighters working on those fires, but they've been so bad and the wind has been so much. We've had terrible smoke here in Metro Atlanta. And so today, we've had cooler weather, we've had less smoke. It's been a very pleasant day.
Well, that's nice. Not the fire part, but the pleasant day part is nice. 60 degrees in November. That is interesting. A concept I cannot wrap my head around. It is
what
about
is it there?
22, maybe. But the snow melted last week because it was raining. So it's cold and icy.
It got that cold that fast there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, last year it was -17 this time of the year. It was really cold for a little while. But
my brother took a cruise to Alaska and he went to Anchorage, and it was hotter in Anchorage than it was in Atlanta at that point. And I think that was last summer or 2 summers ago.
Oh, yes, we get that quite a bit sometimes. People get surprised, especially if you stand in the sun, because the air's so dry and no humidity to kind of blank the sun out. The rays hit you right on. You can cook to a crisp. So, yeah, I actually lived in Fairbanks myself. I'm from Fairbanks, and up there it regularly gets well over 100 degrees.
Wow.
So, and it also gets 70 below zero. So not in the same day or even in the same month, but you know. Okay, boys, back to you. What's your questions?
Well, we were reading over your stuff on your website and found some interesting things about you.
Oh,
okay.
See, this is why I'm afraid.
Well, you wrote them, so hopefully you can answer them. Okay, Buffin, you go first.
Oh.
Okay, I swallowed my sandwich now, so I won't spit any bits at you while I'm talking.
That's good.
So, here we go. How many Rod Stewart concerts have you been to? And do you consider yourself a groupie?
You know, I can appreciate why you're confused on that, because you being from Ireland, you would think Rod Stewart is who I follow, because ever since Rod Stewart stopped wearing those leopard skin leotards and he put on a nice jacket and pants and he did his hair and then he started singing the American Songbook, Rod Stewart's been looking an awful lot like my favorite Barry Manilow. And I have seen Barry, I haven't seen Rod at all, but I've seen Barry in concert 54 times in 21 cities. That might make me a groupie, but there are people who've seen him so many more times than I have. But I will say I am, you've heard it here first, a card-carrying member of the Barry Manilow International Fan Club.
Barry Manilow? Basil,
yes.
Someone needs to slap you because you didn't proofread your script here.
Well, sorry, guys. Like she said, they look a lot alike these days.
I think that's it. I think they look alike, and in fact, I've even seen Rod Stewart and thought he was Barry, and then I had to look very closely. That's not Barry. It's an imposter.
Well, Barry Manilow makes more sense to me, too. So that's pretty cool.
I thought it would, you being such a reasonable leprechaun.
Oh, yeah, I'm very reasonable for the most part, long as I understand what the question was. Okay, this is Feely. I'm going to take the next question here. Your online bio says that you have never lived in an apartment. Does this mean that you've always lived in togetherments?
I appreciate that very clever wordplay. I've always lived in a house. I've never called it or heard of it called a togetherment. I have heard it called a dwelling, a domicile, a crib, a crash pad, few other terms like that, but never a togetherment. I think you're onto something.
Oh, domicile. I thought that was a kind of dog. Well, anyway, next question. How about, Gerald, you take this one.
Okay. We noticed in the pictures on your website that you seem to be a big fan of the Eiffel Tower. Do you believe that the Eiffel Tower has magical properties? And if so, what kind of magical powers are they?
Well, they are magical. I couldn't describe the magic of them, of it. It's when I look at it, I'm amazed at the engineering of it, because when you think about it, this was done before the age of computers. They had to figure out all the math by themselves. And how did they make it meet and not be cattywampus? I mean, that's magic in and of itself. And when I've been there, and we've been to the top of it several times, and Drew and I have kissed at the top of the Eiffel Tower, and that's a different kind of magic. So
we don't need to get into the adult stuff here.
So yeah, that it has different magic powers, and I have decorated you can't see it, but I've decorated my studio with all sorts of Eiffel Tower things because it just makes me happy to see it.
That's nice. And I saw the picture you got of your studio on the webpage, and it showed a lot of Eiffel Tower stuff in there. And that brings me to my next question, which is, are you or are you not a member of the Eiffel Tower Illuminati cult that believes that the Eiffel Tower is actually a massive radio beacon calling down aliens to come and take all the true believers away to a French-speaking paradise on a faraway planet, and probably funded by George Soros?
Is there such a thing? If there's a club, I might join it.
So I've heard.
Well, maybe you can find me. I am the Queen of Links. If I can't find it, maybe you can send me the link and I'll join. But at this moment, I am not a member of that. And I have to say, if they were French speaking right now, that wouldn't be paradise for me because I wouldn't understand them. Although I've always wanted to be multilingual, so I haven't made it yet, but that would be a great reason to make that happen. So,
well, maybe if you put on the big pointy foil hat they have for that club, it might automatically translate French for you. I think that's what I read in the article in that odd magazine.
That makes perfect sense.
Okay, well, I'm going to take this last one. This is Berthold again. And this one, we got to do some thinking for you, or you got to do some thinking for us.
Okay.
If you were about to be forced to choose a time period anywhere outside of the past or future 30 years, so not within 30 years on either side of today,
okay,
where to be transported to,
okay,
when would you choose to be put?
I'm lucky because I met Drew more than 30 years ago. So I would go back to the day he and I met. It was one of the best days of my life, and my life has only gotten better since then. So I would get to relive all those happy moments again. So that's what I'd do. I'd go back to the day I met him.
Oh, that's sweet. You must like to narrate those romances because you got such a good one yourself.
I like sweet romances, but I do have the perfect romance myself.
That is very excellent. Well, I think that's all we got. You guys have any other questions? No, I'm fine, actually.
I think I'm fine. So, very nice to meet you, Miss Commins, and I look forward to seeing you again, maybe at another APAC in the future.
Well, Basil, it has been a delight getting to speak with you again and to speak with all of your inhabitants, I guess we would call them. And I'm just thrilled for the opportunity to get to talk with you, and I hope that some of what I've shared will help somebody else.
I think it will, and it's been great talking to you too. And if folks out there listening or watching the video here at least, there's the links on the web page or on the video. You can go to her various sites and dig into Karen's brain without actually causing traumatic injuries to her scalp. You can find out so much information. And yeah, it's been great chatting with you. And I look forward, like Gerald said, I look forward to meeting you again at one of the APACs or some other event in the future. And who knows, maybe one of these days, instead of APAC, I'll go down to VO Atlanta or something like that. Is that something that you've ever been to?
Well, I haven't been to it because it usually falls on my anniversary weekend. But, you know, there's a Romance Times convention coming to Atlanta in May. And there are a number of narrators already coming, so we'd love to have you join us.
You know, I have only narrated one strict romance out of the almost 80 titles that I've got out there as of today. And but just this past, well, the last week, I not only narrated but wrote a short romance.
Oh, really?
That for a special project that XE Sands is putting together. She's not my cousin or anything, but just happen to have the same last name.
I know the project of which you're talking about. I'm so impressed that you. And Basil, let me just say, I am so impressed with all that you do because you have a full-time job, you do narration, you write. I mean, you have 4 boys, you have a very active family, you've been active in Boy Scouts in your church, and I sit here sometimes and I think, when does this man sleep? Because you are just such a vibrant force in our community, and we're just so blessed to be around you and the goodness that you share.
Well, I'm a pleasure to be vibrant, or glad to be vibrant. I loathe the day that I stop my vibrancy. Because but I'm really looking forward to it, and thank you very much both for the comments and for joining me on the show. So any last words?
Well, if this is a wrap, I did have a little sound file that I could play.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Should we congratulate ourselves for having a wonderful show?
I think this has been a terrific show. Audience, what do you think? Now, before we go, hold that up in front of the camera. Show folks what that is.
This is one of my favorite toys ever. It's called an applause box, and it sits on my desk. And when you open the lid, assuming it's got light on it, it will. And so when I do something great, especially when I finish a book, we're singing and dancing and playing that applause box several times. And I am not a shill for signals.com, but that's where I bought it, and I've bought several of these for other people, and anybody who gets one loves it. So all you narrators out there, you might want to say, this is what I want for Christmas. an applause box.
And where was it that you got that again?
It's Signals, signals.com.
Okay.
You
And
can
there's the
even
link.
get one that's personalized. You'd think I would be a shill for them, that I'd get some kind of affiliate income, but no. But if they have a rush on them, maybe they'll find this video and go, that's where it came from.
There you go. All righty. Well, thank you very much, Karen. Have a wonderful first day of autumnly weather down there. And we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Basil. Have a good weekend.
Well, that was the show. What did you think of that? She's a very nice lady and super organized. And I just like that laughy box. You know what happened? After we recorded that show, she actually sent me one. That was so cool. She didn't send it to you. She sent it to Mr. Basil. No, she sent it to me. Who else would people in this house be clapping for, you moron? What? Well, not for you, that's for sure. Anyway, Happy New Year, all the people in the world that listen to this, whatever continent or country or place or alternate reality you're living in or anything like that, because you are the greatest people in the world. Well, actually, that's because you're the only people in the world. All of us are. Which makes us the greatest. Happy 2017. Goodbye, 2016. And, Gerald, do your bit.
This show is copyright 2016/2017. Same Production Studios of Alaska, Basil Sands, and all et al. Cooperated. Did you hear that? It went boom, way in the background now. Sounded like a shotgun. Okay, anyway. Have a wonderful rest of your life. Hopefully we'll see you again. Unless you get hit by a bus or something. Which that would be a bad way to start the year off, so don't do that. Happy New Year, folks. Don't get killed. Bye.